I was shown a nice apartment up on the top floor by the super of the building. We were looking around, you poking around as you do look in the closets and this and that. Oh, this looks nice. Yeah, okay, I gotta get my wife to come and see this. And we went over and looked out the window a little bit, and he looked around and he said, listen, I've been doing this for 30 years in this building, and I've never let one black person live here yet.
The Obama administration calls it a plan to diversify neighborhoods and promote fair housing choice. Critics say this is the most radical, politically explosive change President Obama has attempted in his 6+ years in office, calling it social engineering of the worst kind.
Homeownership is the basis of a happy, contented family life. And now, through the use of a National Housing Act insured mortgage, is brought within the reach of all citizens. For instance, a 20% down payment and $40 a month will buy an attractive bungalow like this.
But the government wasn't willing to treat Americans equally when it insured these home loans. It began to create maps that it could determine which areas were most insurable and which areas were less insurable.
The feds now want to take billions in housing grant money and condition it on communities proving that they are sufficiently inclusive and diverse. We begin tonight with Mark. And so, Mark, this is being described as something that President Obama has had in the works for years as a housing and urban development proposed final rule.
I mean, this is an insidious idea. What they are trying to do is engage in social engineering of local communities from Washington, D.C. They're going to take data, collect data on the racial makeup, social makeup, economic makeup of communities, and then either bribe or blackmail them into changing their zoning policies.
They think too many communities are too white, too privileged, and they want to diversify the communities whether the communities want it or not.
Well, you know, the way to diversify communities, we believe in diversifying communities too as conservatives. The way you do that is through economic opportunity. The way you do that is you create opportunities for people at the bottom of the economic ladder to afford housing in these communities. It's not by building more affordable housing in affluent communities.
But wait, but what they're saying is that the way you live, what your town looks like, the racial makeup of it, the opportunity that is there has a real effect on families. And that they're saying too often families of color live in downtrodden, socioeconomically depressed cities, whereas the whites live in these affluent suburbs around those cities, and that it's having a real negative effect on the families of color.
Discrimination in housing contributes to the persistence of broader inequalities in housing, in homeownership, in neighborhoods, access to education, wealth building. So where we live really matters.
You're not going to move into an affluent neighborhood if you don't have a job or if you don't have an education. So the problem is not that these communities are keeping people out.
Housing discrimination is very prevalent in American life, and one of the ways we know that is through studies that are conducted by private fair housing groups, that there really is pervasive discrimination in terms of rental housing, in terms of people who are trying to buy homes. They may do it in a very friendly way. They may direct you to a different kind of housing opportunity. They may say, oh, I suddenly have nothing available.
But the left will argue that people in this community, wealthy communities, are keeping out people of color, not allowing them in, and that in itself is a form of discrimination.
They'll have to prove it on a case-by-case basis, Stuart.
In order to know just how big a problem housing discrimination is, the Department of Housing and Urban Development uses a measurement method that's called paired testing. In each test, two people, one white and one minority, call and then visit an apartment complex or a real estate agent's office and inquire about a house or apartment that was just advertised recently. And they make the same requests and they describe themselves as having the same income, the same assets, and the same employment. So from the perspective of the landlord or the real estate agent, they really are completely comparable customers. The only difference between them is their race or ethnicity. And if over hundreds of tests, we see that the whites are shown more units, told about more units, that's solid evidence of discrimination. And if our work can rigorously and responsibly measure how often that's happening, we can contribute to progress towards eliminating that unfairness.